Okay, this next section is on solving polynomial equations. I did a couple of these on the last lecture, and I want to do one just to remind you of what we were doing. We were given an equation. Let me just find one here. Alright, so we were given an equation, x cubed minus 2x squared minus 11x plus 12, and we were told some specific information. Let's say I want to solve this equation, and I'm given that -3 is a root. Now remember, the word root also means 0. And we use synthetic division to help us solve this. So let me go do this one more time just to make sure you remember. Alright, so we bring down the coefficients. So it's going to be 1, -2, -11, and 2. The number that goes here, remember, when it gives me this information, when it's written like this, that's the number that goes in the little half box. It's giving me the number to put in here already. Now, let's do the synthetic. Bring down the 1. Now, since I'm told it's a root, I should get a 0 right here. If I don't get a 0, then this book is wrong. So, there we go. So, multiply. -3 times 1 is -3. Add the two numbers. -5 times -3 is +15. I get 4. Hold on, I must have wrote out. This should be a 12, not a 2. I wrote it down wrong. That's a 12 right there. Okay, so 4 times -3 is -12, which gives me my 0. So we bring down the numbers, coefficients, and put them back in front of the variable. Set it equal to 0. Then we factor and solve for the other two roots, or zeros, or whatever you want to call them. So when we solve this, when x minus 4, we'll get x to be +4. The x minus 1, x will be +1. These are my 3 solutions, also called roots, also called zeros. Now, in this example, we were told what to put right here. Well, that's good. I need to know that in order to do these problems. Now, suppose, though, I gave you this. I said solve x cubed minus 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 equals 0. And that's all I tell you. I'm not told something. Well, where is a root? Where is the info about a root? Yeah, that's the problem in this section. We're not told what the root is. So, what we have to do is something called the rational zero theorem. Or the rational root theorem. what the rational root theorem does, it creates a list of possible roots. And highlight that possible. Now, this is possible. That doesn't mean they are. It means this could be. Now, our lists are going to be, some of them are going to be kind of long. I might have 16 possible answers. I might have 4 possible answers. I could have, 30-something possible answers. This is where it gets very tedious and very, I don't want to say it's not complicated, it's just tedious. And once we list this root, we're going to use synthetic to find a 0. So instead of us being told up front, we got to go find it ourselves. Now, in order to find the roots, find possible roots. What you do is you list all the factors of the constant and you divide them by all the factors of the first number. So you have to go create a list based on the factors of the first number and the factors of the last number. Now, what was this example I had over here? Alright, so I want to take this one. Now it's a 4. This is going to be a fairly simple one. So, I want to list all the possible factors. Find the possible roots for that previous example. So we're going to create a fraction. When you're listing the factors, you must put a plus or minus in front of each factor. So the factors of the last number go up top. The factors of the first number go in the bottom. And it was just a 1, so that's good. Then you take each number in the bottom and you divide it into each number in the top. In this case, we're just dividing them into, we're dividing them by 1, so this is what we end up. Now, I want you to notice I have 6 possible roots because of that plus or minus. What I would do if I wanted to solve this equation, I would have to take each one separately, use synthetic division, and then do this until I find a remainder of 0. But before I do that, I want to practice finding these possible roots. Let's do this one. Let's say I want to list all the possible roots. List all possible roots of 2x cubed, or the function, this is a function, 2x cubed minus 3x squared minus 11x plus 6. Now, I'm only looking at the last number and the first number. I don't care anything about the -3 and the -11. You got to remember to put the factors of 6 the factors of the last number over the factors of 2. So it's the last number goes on top and the first number goes on the bottom. Now, let's list all the factors of 6. Now make sure you put plus or minus in front of each one. Plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 6. Then you're going to have in the bottom plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2. Now, here's where you got to pay attention. I'm going to write it out the long way, then we can simplify. You're going to take each number in the top and divide it by each number in the bottom separately. So it would look like this. Whoops. Alright, so that's doing the 1. Then you turn around and you'd say, okay, plus or minus 1 divided by plus or minus 2. Plus or minus 2 divided by plus or minus 2. Plus or minus 3 divided by plus or minus 2. Plus or minus 6 divided by plus or minus 2. Now, you're going to go simplify these. I'm going to come over here to the next slide. So we're going to get 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 divided by 1. 3 divided by 1. And 6 divided by 1. Then we're going to have 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, which we already have. Then we're going to have 3 divided by 2. Then we're going to have 6 divided by 2, which is 3, which we already have. Now, notice I got 12 possible roots. It is possible none of those work. I'm going to have them where they work, but we have to be able to create this list. Let's say I had, I don't know, let's say my function is, we'll do 4x cubed minus 7x squared plus 3x plus, let's do 15. Okay, so we would take all the factors of 15, the last number in the top, then in the bottom we would put all the factors of 4. Now, first thing I'm going to do is divide the top numbers by 1. When I divide the top numbers by 1, we'll get plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 5, plus or minus 15. I'm going to take the top and divide everything by 2. So we'll have, plus or minus 1/2, plus or minus 3/2, plus or minus 5/2, plus or minus 15/2. Then I'm going to take the 4 and divide it into everything in the top. So we'll have plus or minus 1/4, plus or minus 3/4, plus or minus 5/4, plus or minus 15/4. Now this is an extreme problem. There are, let's see, 24 possible roots. Our goal is to use synthetic division and these numbers and try to find one that gives me 0 at the end. And this is where it gets very tedious. You would have to take each one separate. You don't know which one's going to work. You have to do them separate until you find a 0. Now, I would not have one this extreme on the quiz, but I do want to show you how you can go about this. Let's try to find a good one here. Let's start with, so I want to solve x cubed minus 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. Well, I already did this one earlier. Minus 4 equals 0. Alright. First thing you do is list out your possible roots, and I did this one earlier. The possible roots are plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. And you set up your synthetic division. Whoops, that should be a minus 7. And that should be a minus 4. And, you set it up just like normal. But this time, I don't know which number works, so we have to go check them. Literally check them. So I'm going to start with positive 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Combine that together, we'll get negative 1. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Combine that together, we'll get negative 8. Negative 8 times 1 is negative 8, and I get negative 12. Well, I need a 0 right there where that negative 12 is. So, what that means, this positive 1 doesn't work. So, then I choose another number out of that list. I usually just start with 1 and work my way down. Let's try negative 1. Well, 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. That gives me negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. I get negative 4. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. And guess what? I get 0. What that means, this is a root, which is the same thing as a 0, which is the same thing as my solution. So one of my answers for this problem is x will be negative 1. Put the variables back with the numbers and go factor that factor that trinomial. It'll be x minus 4, x plus 1, equals 0. Now, we already know how to do this. This is going to be x equals 4. And this is going to be x equals negative 1. Well, I've already got negative 1. So my other answer is x equals 4. So that's one of my answers. I already had the negative 1. So this one has 2 answers. Alright, we'll just keep on doing this. let's do 6x cubed plus 25x squared minus 24x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, now here comes the possible. You got to list out your possible roots. There's a question on the final where it just says list the possible roots. So remember, it's always the last number, so it's the factors of the last number divided by all the factors of the first number. Okay, so we take every number in the top, divide it by 1. And we'll get that. Take every number in the top, divide it by 2. Take every number in the top and divide it by 3. Oops. Take every number in the top and divide it by 6. Wow, what a mess. 16 possible roots, and only 4 of them are whole numbers. Ugh. Let's hope there's a whole number that works, because I don't want to deal with these fractions. But let's just go do the synthetic, see if we can find one that works. I always try to do the whole numbers first, and then if I have to, I'll do the fractions. So I'm going to definitely start with the whole numbers. Alright, let's just start with 1. Again. Alright. 6 times 1 is 6. Combine that, we'll get 31. 31 times 1 is 31. I'll get 7. And that's definitely not going to give me a 0. So start over. Let's try negative 1. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. That's going to give me 19. 19 times negative 1 is negative 19. And that's not going to work. Man. This is the way it works sometimes. You just have to check 3 or 4 or 5 of them. You know. Let's try 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Gives me 55. Whew, I hope you can tell that ain't going to work. So let's go and try negative 5. I sure don't want to have to do a fraction. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. That gives me negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Gives me 1. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5, and I get 0. Ooh, thank goodness. That means that's one of my answers. Put the variables back with the coefficients. And then we're going to factor this and solve. I'm going to come over here on the last slide. 6x squared minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. Now, I want you to factor this, factor and solve. And then I want you to email me your answers. For extra points. I want to see who's actually doing these lectures.